Recording. Okay. State your name.
Name, Christopher Moke.
Can you spell it for me?
Spell it ChristopherMoke.
Classification?
Classification, junior.
And your major?
Major, psychology.
Okay. So tell me, how did you hear about UDC?
How did I hear about UDC? Well, I had been living in the States for a little bit. I was a sophomore when I had heard about UDC. I moved into the DC area, and the opportunity came about. I was playing soccer, and a coach of mine had started to inform me about UDC. When I heard about UDC, he kind of introduced me to the coaches, and I came on a visit, and I just came to the area just to see what it was like. I got a tour of the school and stuff like that, and the neighborhood and the environment, and that's pretty much how I heard about the school.
So did you attend any other school before UDC?
Yeah, I had gone to the University of Virginia when I was living down in Virginia. I went there for about a year and some change, and then I moved up here to DC, and then I was just really playing at the time.
So how can you compare the two between University of Virginia and UDC?
How can I compare the two? Well, University of Virginia was like a very big school. You know, you go there, there's a bunch of students. The classes are about 300, you know, a lecture. It's very like, let me do that one again. How can I compare the two? The University of Virginia is like a very big school. You know, everything's supersized. There's 300 children in a lecture, whereas like you come to UDC, the classes are more focused. You know, you can really get to know your professors, whereas at UVA, you're just another number on the board, you know, and the environment's very different. Even the focuses within the subjects are very different. You know, I felt like UDC was more tailored towards who I am as a person, whereas UVA was kind of more abstract concepts, I felt like, in a lot of the classes that I was in. It was a very like great experience, but to get to experience both sides, I feel like it's been the best part of, you know, being able to even compare the two. Not a lot of people get to experience both.
So since you mentioned about who you are, tell us a little bit about who you are. Who is Chris?
Who is Chris? Well, Chris is the son, first of all, of, you know, Arthur Moke and Pelagie, my parents, who were both from the Democratic Republic of Congo. They both moved to London specifically in their early 20s, I would say. And so I was born and raised in London, very, very deeply tied to my roots. You know, I was raised in a very African household. However, we still were learning how to, you know, adapt to the British culture. And I played soccer pretty much my entire life. And eventually I came over here to the United States when I was about 16. So I would say that it's taught me a lot about myself in those past years. I've learned how to deal with things, and learning how to survive without your parents as well kind of teaches you a lot. So I feel like I've learned more in the past, I'd say 4 years of me being here in the States, than I may have done the couple years before that. I think generally I'm just like a really cool person who just enjoys having good energy around me, not being surrounded by negativity and stuff like that. So I generally say just someone who enjoys having a good time, good vibes, and also learning. I enjoy learning.
So how does your parents feel about you being so far away attending school?
How do my parents feel about me being so far away from school? I think my mom struggled with it at first. You know, her son leaving the house and stuff like that is difficult, but she slowly come to grips with it. She knows if it's gonna better me in the long run. She's happy that I'm doing something that I really enjoy, and most importantly that I'm safe. You know, I think that's the biggest thing for her, knowing that she could sleep easy at night. My father, I think I kind of get it from him, kind of being free-spirited and, you know, liking to roam around and be free and not being held down. So he kind of understood it straight away that, you know, he's ready to kind of flee the nest.
So tell me, your experience as being an athlete? So you play soccer. So
Mm-hmm.
what was your experience like playing as an athlete for UDC?
Okay. My experiences being an athlete at UDC, I guess it's like being an athlete anywhere else. Really, it's tough. You know, it demands a lot physically, mentally. I think when you're an athlete and a student, that requires a whole nother level of mental, you know, concentration and focus that, you know, some people often overlook. You know, they kind of think, oh, you're an athlete, you live the easy life, you get everything you want, but it comes with a lot of sacrifices. You know, a lot of early mornings, a lot of late nights trying to catch up on work and stuff like that. And being an athlete at UDC it's been a challenge, definitely. It's definitely been a challenge, but it's been fun. You know, we've had a better season than last year, and we've been building. We have a very new team this year, and so all the challenges that came with that, but we still managed to do all right. We didn't do too bad. We missed out on the conference, I think, by maybe just a few points, but that was tough, but at the same time, it let us know that we were heading in the right direction.
So, by saying that, do you feel that UDC has a really good program?
Yeah.
For soccer?
Do I feel like UDC has a really good program? Yes, I do. I feel like the program is taking steps in the right direction, you know, and although the program has struggled in the past, the program is continually getting better and closer to that goal of reaching the conference.
So, tell me about your classes.
Mm-hmm.
What's your experiences as far as, you know, being an international student and, you know, attending classes?
Yeah, my experience as an international student sitting in classes, it's been a very interesting experience. You know, just the interactions in class and listening to other students' experiences versus my experiences are very different. Growing up in different cultures, I think even though like in London we speak the same language as Americans do, the cultures are still very different. And I learned that every day interacting with people. And really, one of the things you have to learn to do is really kind of come out of your own head and out of your own culture in order to understand someone else's. So I think coming here with an open mind and, you know, becoming accepting and listening and learning from other people has been a big thing. My classes have been really fun. Like, I love the psychology program at UDC. The professors are really great mentors, and they really take the time out to really make sure you're on the right track, you're doing what you need to do, and they really take a personal interest in who you are as well. So it's been a great experience.
Do you share any of your culture while being here?
Yeah, definitely. I think not just my professors are very interested in my culture, not just, you know, being from London, but also the African culture. And especially coming to a HBCU like UDC, I think like it's very Afrocentric. And so any type of culture you can bring from an African background is appreciated. But even also, you know, coming from London, people are always curious as to how things are over there and how we do things and why things are done like that. And so I think it's a good exchange.
So what's the difference between attending school in London
Mm-hmm.
and attending school in the States?
The difference between attending school in London and attending school in the States is different in so many ways. First and foremost, if you go to college in London, you're kind of more focused in on your major from the start. You know, there's not really any electives. There's not taking credits over here and taking credits over there to figure out what you kind of want to do. It's like, okay, this is my major. I'm going in straight from the beginning. This is all I'm focusing on. So in that aspect, that's a lot different too. And I think culturally it's different just in the sense that there's a lot of different rules and stuff like that. You know, like a lot of the times you come to college in the States, like when I was more so at like a bigger school like in Virginia, a lot of kids hadn't really been away from home till they went off to college. I think that's another big difference. Whereas back in London, it's kind of like it's less of a big thing. It's less of a, oh, I'm leaving home for the first time kind of thing, which is also different. And generally, I guess just because the cultures are so different, you know, it's not the same, I guess. I think the sizes as well, you know, the amount of people that you meet when you come out here as well is also a big difference. And one of the biggest things is like the cost of school and education. That's a major difference. You know, the cost of education out here is a lot more expensive than the cost of education back in London. And I think that really plays a big part in a lot of the differences that you see when you do come over here, and that I noticed anyway.
So elaborate on the cost. I mean, like, is it the cost in international student? Is it a disadvantage, or is it something that you look forward to having a scholarship to come here? You know, elaborate on that.
Yeah, well, the differences in costs, well, there are a lot of disadvantages as an international student, you know, coming over here. And it is quite difficult without a scholarship unless, you know, you come from a financially able background, which I don't. So without a scholarship, I wouldn't have been able to even come to school in the States. But, you know, there's a lot of hurdles to jump. Even just the process of getting a visa in order to be able to make it out here is a tough fight sometimes. And making it out here on time, you know, I think they're still kind of figuring out that system of getting a visa, because sometimes you may be trying to get a visa, you may get accepted into a school around July, you know, you may not get your admission into that school around July, maybe even a bit earlier. Then you go through that process of sending documents in, and then you finally get an F1 or I-20, and now you have to go to the embassy, and sometimes booking an appointment just to get a visa may take a couple months. Before you know it, school starts the end of August and you're flying in last minute. So I think in that aspect, there's a lot of things that may or could be improved. But also, you know, a lot of students who come here on international visas, depending on the visa, like me being under a scholarship, an F1, you can't work unless you have certain approvals which take more time and stuff like that. So it's a very narrow system. So you got to kind of really stay within the lines. Otherwise, if you break the rules or go a little bit left or either way, you could end up in trouble. So you have to be really aware of what the rules are, what the regulations are, and stick to them.
So for those who don't know, what is a visa?
Well, a visa is pretty much documentation that allows you to be in a country that is not of your origin, where you have citizenship pretty much for an extended stay, an extended period. You can get visas for different things. You can get visas for business, visa for being a student, visas for being an athlete, or even just visas to go on holiday for an extended period of time. So you have to go through your government, your local, wherever you're from, and be issued. There's a process. It comes with, you know, they do background checks and do all of that stuff to make sure you're not at risk or you're not someone who's dangerous and stuff like that. So it's a very long process.
So by coming here to UDC, tell me, what is it that you like about UDC?
Mm-hmm. What I like about UDC is, first and foremost, I like the area. You know, UDC is in DC, it's in the city. You know, it's surrounded by a lot of things to do. It's surrounded by a lot of schools, a lot of people from all different walks of life. The school itself has a very intimate, warm feeling, I feel like. You know, the people that you encounter here, and you do encounter a lot of international students here. There's a lot of diversity. There's a lot of different cultures in one place, which is really cool as well. Like I mentioned before, the professors who have been incredible to me, you know, they've been more than just professors, but also kind of helped guide me in different directions and kind of taught me different things in life that helped me in life and not just in school. So
now, with that diversity, do you feel the camaraderie, you know, support from other international students, and also do you feel the support from students that are domestic?
Mm-hmm. Do I feel support from international students and students that are domestic? Definitely. I feel like the international students have a way of finding each other. You know, they find each other quite quickly, and you kind of have that rapport of, okay, we're going through similar trials and, you know, similar tribulations. We may be from the same countries or have things in common. And I think even the domestic students they welcome you with open arms as well, because it's something new. It's something we haven't seen before. So we want to interact and kind of get to know each other and share experiences and stuff like that. So it's definitely been inviting, as well as it has been, you know, and I always mention it being as an equal exchange. So it's definitely been, I've definitely felt the camaraderie from both international students and students that are domestic as well.
Now, with all ups, there are some downs.
Yeah.
So, can you share if there are any downsides to UDC specifically?
Downsides to UDC, I think some of the downsides may be like, the UDC community, I feel like, is very willing and they really want to be involved with what goes on here. And I feel like UDC could do a lot more in terms of even just the awareness of what's going on. I feel like maybe the awareness of what's going on in the community and what can be done as well, including the students, could be a lot better. Other downsides, not too many. I mean, sometimes, classes and the flexibility and stuff like that can be a problem also, but generally I feel like those are probably maybe the biggest things.
So, are you an on-campus student or are you an off-campus student?
I am an on-campus student.
So tell me, what is your, like being on campus, tell me the advantages of being on campus and being able to deal with and cope with the school.
Well, the advantages of being on campus means you have easy access to get to classes. So when I mentioned the flexibility of classes, I understand that not everyone's on campus and a lot of UDC students do commute. So that does lead to a lot of the issues that take place regarding classes. So I'm very aware of that. So I don't take that for granted. Being on campus makes life a whole lot easier. It's just a walk, I don't have to take transport. And it doesn't take you long to realize how hard it is to drive into DC. The metro system isn't always the greatest. And I think that's one of the differences from London. Like in London, the public transport is amazing. Like I used to neglect it as a kid. I used to hate jumping on the bus or jumping on the train. But the old saying, like, you don't know what you have until it's gone. You come here and it's like, damn, like this is really bad. So I don't take that for granted. So, access sometimes for some people as well isn't the easiest. So again, that just makes me appreciate being close to campus a lot easier, especially waking up early in the morning to get to practice. You're just walking across the street. So it's very, I appreciate it.
So have you ever come in contact with the president of the university?
Have I come into contact with the president? Yes, I have come into contact with the president a couple times. He's a very nice guy. He's easy to talk to. He's very approachable. So I bumped into him just walking through campus after classes, before classes. He comes to some of the sporting events as well, and he also kind of sat all the athletes down at a certain point, and he gave us a really good introduction when he first came. So I feel like I definitely got a very good feel of him and who he is.
So, if you could change anything, what would you like to change on campus?
If I could change anything on campus, what would I change? If I could change anything on campus. If I could change anything on campus, I think, cause me, I'm really into like creative things and stuff like that. So if someone asks me what I'd change on campus, I think I'd just like to like change some of the walls and just change some of the, and give people a little bit more to look at, give people a little bit more to kind of just be inspired by it, really. I think that the plaza is a great space, for instance. I think that could be utilized a lot more. And I feel like, especially in the warmer months of the year, this year we had a bit more in there, like at the start of the year, start of the semester, but I feel like that could be utilized a lot more just to bring students together and just, really just utilize the space and stuff like that. So I feel like I just give people more to look at, brighten up the walls, and just put more art around the place. And I think that's what I would do anyway.
So one last question. What advice or what can you tell an international student coming here? What would be your final words to them?
My final words to an international student that came to UDC, I think my biggest advice to any international students, regardless where you're coming from, my advice would be to step out of yourself. You know, step out of who you are and don't be afraid to take those risks, or don't be afraid of, you know, kind of losing yourself in order to find yourself. Oftentimes you come from where you come from with such a strong sense of your culture that you may be blind to what someone else may be offering you or what someone else may be trying to show you. There's 1,000,001 ways to live your life and do things, and if you're so caught up in thinking that your way is the right way, you're gonna come into conflict, and there's gonna be a lot of friction between you and a lot of people. So my biggest thing for any international student is just having an open mind, you know, really having an open mind. Because in a sense, you don't have to forget your culture, or you're not gonna lose your culture. Just be open to what people may be willing to show you and share with you. And, you know, when you kind of have that mentality, people will be more open to kind of receive your culture as well, you know? So I think there's a sense of humility that you carry when you're very open-minded, you know, and people kind of willing to help you a little bit more. So I think that's a big thing. And sometimes you run into a lot of people who may not understand where you come from. So it may give you a chance to kind of be the representation of where you come from. You may be the only person that they ever come into contact with from where you come from. So in a sense, whether you choose to acknowledge it or not, you kind of have a responsibility and a representation of where you're coming from and who you are and the family that you may have left and stuff like that. So I just think going anywhere with an open mind is a big thing, and it's important.
I do have one more question. Have you met any other students from either London or Republic of Congo?
Yeah, I have. I have met other students from London. I have a teammate from London as well. He's from a different part of London, but he's from London. I have 2 teammates from England, but I've met a few people from the UK. I have met some people from the Democratic Republic of Congo as well. And it's very interesting coming across them as well, because they share similar and even some different experiences. So it's always a really good thing to run into people from where you're from.
What is your most humorous story that you could say that happened to you, or that you have seen, witnessed on UDC, at UDC campus?
The most humorous story I've seen on UDC campus. Man, there's a lot. Let me think. Man, the funniest story. That is tough. The funniest story I've seen on UDC campus. Off the top of my head, it's so hard. That may take me a while to figure out. I really don't know.
So who would be your funniest professor? Or
My funniest professor would have to be Dr. Rasayan. I call him Dr. Coco. Dr. Coco has to be the funniest professor I've had. He's had there's a bunch of funny moments we've had in this class. And he tells a lot of funny stories. He's a great storyteller. He's great at engaging his audience. And yeah, we've had some funny moments in his class too. So I'm trying to think, there's just so many. Trying to think. Oh, this isn't the funniest, But one of the funniest moments in which class was this? This had to be, if it wasn't neuroscience, it's just one of them, one of that came to the top of my head. One of the students, I'm not gonna name any names. I guess he's like an avid chocolate fan or something like that. And I guess he would always eat chocolate in class and kind of like fall asleep. And our professor, Dr. Coco, was like to him one time, you know what, I'm gonna bring you some really good chocolate, and it's not gonna make you fall asleep. And he brought him this chocolate. I couldn't read the label, whatever it was, and he's kind of like, this chocolate isn't gonna be better than the other chocolate. He was kind of really like, yeah, whatever, kind of brushed it off. And he ate maybe half of it. I don't know, it was like a bar, maybe that long. And he was just buzzing. He was just all over the place. He was like hopping in and out of his seat. He was just like answering every cut, like, and it was just like in that moment, it was just one of those funny things that you kind of just, you had to see. Or even better, one of the funniest things actually that happened in that class, this is even funnier. We were talking about a condition where like you kind of just, a condition, I think it's like narcolepsy, where you kind of just fall asleep. And in the back, there was 2 students in the back, and you know, we're allowed to use our computers, or sometimes he allows us to kind of look up things that he's talking about. And for some reason, 2 of the students in the back found a video of a dog that had this kind of thing where the dog would kind of just like randomly fall asleep. So the dog is like up and he'll be jumping around, and then he'll just fall smack asleep on the spot. So the dog would be jumping and just like collapse, and everyone in the class just started like dying. He pulled it up on the big screen and we were just crying for like 5-10 minutes. That was still one of the highlights of the semester. I feel like that was one of the funniest things. The dog would just literally collapse on the spot. He could be like 10 feet in the air and just collapse and just drop. And it's like he's playing possum, and then he'll wake up and then do the same thing again. So that was kind of funny.
Yeah, I had to be quiet on that one. That wasn't yeah, that's a wrap.
All right.
Yeah.